my dome. Concrete walls, yeah, it's my home. Stockpile stacked with rations tight. Prep for the dark, we'll light the fight. Forage the woods, take what I need. Off-grid living, no time for greed. Barter goods in the shadow shade. Tactical steps in plans I've laid. Back to the bunker where the truth won't bend. Water and food where the road might end. Bug out bags by the door, stand tall. Prepared for the fall. Yeah, prepared for it all. Generators hum, a comforting sound. Blackout nights when chaos surrounds. Seeds in jars, yeah, we're growing life. Homesteading strong in a time of strife. No high-tech wires, no web to roam. Resilience beats the world unknown. Hands in the soil, hearts in the fight. Staying ready every day, every night. Back to the bunker where the truth won't bend. Water and food where the road might end. Bug out bags by the door, stand tall. Prepare for the fall. Yeah, prepare for it all. Back through the bunker where the truth won't bend. Water and food where the road might end. Bug out bags by the door, stand tall. Prepare for the fall. Yeah, prepare for it all. Prepare for it all. When central power rules the game, when thoughts controlled in freedom's name, when the governed lose to government might, tell me who's got the wrong kind of Reich? He builds his cars, he mines the stars. No gulags for critics, no bureaucratic charge, no youth brigade.
There we go. Outstanding. So many buttons to push in the world. Everybody, welcome for the live stream tonight. Looks like we've got a handful of people in here. And as requested, we have that crazy man himself. Yes, he is the NC Scout as requested. So any of you turd burglars out there that that didn't think I could pull it off, there you know. Now you know that. Now you know that. So hopefully you're having a good night tonight. NC Scout, bush beater, the bush beater himself. How are we doing tonight? Good?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. Happy to be here.
Excellent.
Happy to be here.
Let's see.
Why did people think you couldn't pull it off? I mean, you know, I'm kind of a cheap man.
I think what's happening is there's believers and there's non-believers. You know what I'm saying? Hail Mary, full of grace, that kind of stuff. There's no telling. Some people just don't believe things can happen. Hey, listen, when I get, okay, so here's the deal. When I get, oh my God, I'm losing my mind here. I just had this great idea. And now I'm losing my mind. Who's the biggest podcaster on the planet?
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan. When I get Joe Rogan, we're going to have a threesome, dude. We're gonna be cuddle bunnies. Wait a minute, Hucklebuck, and you should know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I've got NC Scout here as requested. He's hanging out with us. Obviously, ask him some questions, but I get to ask him the very first question. If you guys don't know who this guy is, he's the one who wrote the Guerrilla's Guide to the Bofang Radio. This is basically, if you saw the thumb, it's like Bofang God. You should get like a little gold, like a little pin, a lapel pin says Bofang God.
Nah.
But take credit where credit is due. It's that easy. It's that easy. But I guess the first question that I'm going to be asking him tonight, because it's not really an interview, it's more of a hangout. We're just going to have a little bit of fun, but you know, it's going to start someplace. So I guess the first question is, why did you write this book? Why did you write the Guerrilla's Guide to the Bofang Radio?
Oh man, that's kind of an interesting story. So I've been writing the Brushbeater blog. It's brushbeater.org. I've been writing that one since 11 September 2015. And I was actually writing for other people prior to that, just under different pseudonyms. You know, it was when I was in my last year in the Army, and then when I got out. And then about a year later, I started up my own blog. It was a little over a year later. I started up my own blog, kind of just out of boredom. And like one of the big things was I didn't see, and you know, we're talking a decade ago, I didn't see anything in the prepper, patriot, militia, 2A community, you know, that training world. I really didn't see anything that was answering the tactical communications question. Like there was this big disconnect between the amateur radio world, the ham radio world, and guys who were trigger pullers and you know, range bunnies and you know, like that world, right? So like this was massive disconnect. And contrary to popular belief, I wasn't a commo guy. You know, I'm a trigger puller. I was 11 Bravo, and you know, and had a lot of fun in the Army. Used to have these things called long range surveillance units.
Yep.
And I was in one, and had just, you know, way more fun there than I probably should have. But one of the things that we were told and kind of reminded of, especially early on, was that, you know, you're already a top tier infantryman. That's why you're here. What else can you do? And one of the big things that went along with that was communication skills, because that's always going to be the first thing that fails you, you know. And what our first sergeant used to tell us, he would tell all three detachments when we'd have company powwows, is you know, a 6-man team that's alone and unafraid, commo goes down, what are you gonna do? You can't sit there and go, oh well, hey, where's the commo guy? Like, hey, my radio dumped this fill. Yeah, it's 117 dumped this fill, or I can't make a sat shot out here. What am I gonna do? Like, you don't have that option. Like that's, you know, so your bread and butter really needs to be making it work, because communications is a no fail mission. You know, that's a no fail tasking. So anyway, when I got out, there really wasn't, you know, there were like the ham radio guys, and you know, shout out to Amron, my buddy John Jacob Schmidt. I got to hang out with him when I was out in Montana. I had him in the SIGINT course, Signals Intelligence course, and you know, we made a video that was really cool. But you know, there was that crowd which is like overpopulated with hams, and I'm a ham too, by the way. I'm an amateur extra. So, you know, I went from no license to amateur extra on the VE, and, you know, giving them tests and all that stuff, even though I haven't given any tests in a while because I just don't have time for it. But the other thing too is that, like, you know, one of the things that I constantly remind guys, like, we're getting ready to have the RTO course this coming weekend, and an advanced RTO immediately following it. And one of the things that I drill home into guys in that class is that amateur radio is a hobby, not a profession. You know, it is a hobby, and it's a good one to get into. There's a lot of really awesome skills, and you know, and like, especially the novices that get into it, new guys that get into it, a lot of them that I've seen, that I've had a front row seat of observing in the past decade, are really, really good guys who are coming into amateur radio as a preparedness skill. And a lot of the hams that have been, ham radio guys for, several decades now, a lot of them electrical engineers, and, they're kind of coming from the STEM background world. And they're resentful of that. And so there's this big, there's almost a, I don't want to call it a generational rift, because that's not really accurate, but there's this rift in the ham radio community between guys who are more preparedness oriented and the ones who are just like technically oriented, and they've got a hobby that's kind of an extension of their profession. And so, you kind of, and there's bleed over in there. And so what I encourage people to do is one, get into amateur radio because the hobby is what you make of it. And two, avoid, if this guy over here is being an asshole, just avoid it, man. Like it's simple. Like that's on him. That ain't on you. And you can talk to me. You can talk to there's thousands of other guys out there that are doing really cool shit. Look at Summits on the Air. Look into that. That's a really good. Parks on the Air. There's this whole subset of amateur radio of guys that build off-road vehicles and go to these locations and do activations. And that's super cool. Anyway, talking about like how I got into the book, people had been kind of it was all accidental, man. It like the blog got no, I mean it was like I never intended for it to become more than just some anon writing some musings on.
Wait a minute, I'm going to stop you right there. At some point somebody said you should write a book.
Yeah. Well, I actually had planned on writing a more comprehensive book originally, and got about a third of the way through it. I had the entire thing laid out, and you just can't do that. It's for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to say you can't do that, because you absolutely can. You shouldn't do that, because it's just not. There's too many topics. VHF, UHF, kind of line of sight communications is one thing. HF is another. There's so many intricacies that go into that. But I had laid out a book, and I had a massive computer crash, on my end. And I was writing stuff for the trigger puller. I was writing stuff from my perspective as a ground pounder that, had to be in this role. And when I got out of the Army and I was kind of sizing up the human terrain, I realized, hey, you no longer have a 117. You no longer have that embedder. You don't have SATCOM. You don't have these things, right? And most importantly, you don't have a commo shop to take it to when your kludgy hands break things.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you fix all this stuff? Like, how do you make this stuff work? And so amateur radio for me was a creative hobby to figure out how I would do this when, in the event that, all these things go live. How are you going to do that? And what's the civilian equipment looking like? So, it was really that. And came to the conclusion that, for good and bad, the people's point of entry into radio is baffling. Like, it just is.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, you always run into those cats that'll like roll their eyes about that, or guys who just like worship at the altar of baffling. Hey man, whatever. Like, here's the deal. It's inexpensive. It's a Honda Civic, man. It's a Toyota Hilux all across the Middle East.
Datsun B210.
Yeah, damn thing is going to run forever. It's effective. You can put it in a lot of people's hands. And the thing is that after my epic computer crash, that the original things I was writing kind of went away. The blog stuff was still up. That became the Guerrilla Dispatch volumes 1 and 2. But it was like, all right, pare this down, I had a couple of good friends who are really well known in the special operations community, and they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of behind the scenes of things, involved in doctrine stuff and everything. And they approached me, and then I had someone else from that community approach me about writing a book specific for the bow thing, because the bow thing radio, it was two very important reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is one of the guys had just come back from a rotation with AFRICOM,
Mm-hmm.
where he was in Horn of Africa, he was in Uganda, he was in Kenya, and working with local nationals in those countries. And he said, "Look, man, like the bow thing is everywhere." And this guy had been an 18 Echo too, and which is a SF combo sergeant. He's like, "Dude, like there are bow thing all these cats have got bow things,
Mm-hmm.
all Al Shabaab's got bow things, like,
Yep.
but I don't know what I'm doing with them, and so I need just like basically a field manual on something I can flip through to just say, okay, this is this and this is this, and like basically a aviator's checklist or
Yeah.
jump master's checklist on this, and this to make this work." And I'm like, well, shit, I can do that.
Yeah.
And that dovetailed, so that, there I had several people that were telling me the same thing for mission set. The other reason was, at that point, um, Ukraine was getting ready to face its invasion
Mm-hmm.
uh, from the north and from the east by the Russians, and they knew that this was happening. NATO knew that it was happening, and so people that I'm friends with and that had been reading me for a while in Eurocom, specifically in Poland and in Romania, were asking for something very similar,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to hand out potentially to stay behinds if if things had went worse than they did. And I'm not saying that they didn't go bad, because obviously, we know they did, but there wasn't, Ukraine just didn't get steamrolled. There was a substantial pushback, and has continued to be so. But so I wrote the book really with that in mind. As I say in the very beginning of the book, this isn't a book that's written for engineers. It's not a book
Mm-hmm.
that's written for people who are radio quote unquote experts, because I don't really think any such thing exists. Once you call yourself an expert in any given task, you're no longer learning anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote some books, and they're well regarded, and I'm very thankful for the community for that. There's stuff that I'm learning every day. I train people, I teach, but every class I learn something.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are perfect. When you say that you're an expert in any given task, you're no longer humble, and two, your cup's full. You're not learning anything. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
like, it's always something you're gonna learn. So, I wrote that book. I kept it super simple to follow. Again, it's not written for engineers. It's not an engineering field manual. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something that people are going to read and be like, oh, like, you don't need a technical background for that. And here's the thing too, is that really only the second chapter and part of the seventh chapter are Baofeng specific. The rest of the
Okay.
book is an operating manual for VHF and UHF, like line of sight communications. Like
Okay.
how so and I break down commo in three specific categories. Um, Sustainment communications, and it's kind of this three-legged concept. Sustainment communications, also known as white side communications.
Mm-hmm.
This is it's what we're doing right now, right? We're
Yeah.
having a conversation. Amateur radio is part of that. Law enforcement, fire dispatch, uh, telephone lines. Like this is, that's what we think of when we think of sustainment combo. That's that. Tactical communications is a different animal, right? And it has its own specific set of considerations. And then you have clandestine communications on top of
Mm-hmm.
that. Whole other animal, man.
Yeah.
Totally, total different. And so it's a Venn diagram where some of the things you do are certainly going to bleed over. There's
Oh
some
yeah.
tasks that are going to bleed over in it, but you have to think of them as being mutually exclusive. White side, red side, black side, and I break that down very simply in the book. Um, Keep it very simple, keep it very easy to follow. Um, and it's not a book that you're just going to sit there and be entertained by. I mean, it's a field manual.
Yeah.
Like I wrote a field manual.
Yeah.
That's
And
why.
honestly, I think, I mean, as soon as I looked at the cover, it's like, yeah, this is a manual. I could tell already, man. This is like FM something. You know what I'm saying? Most people don't even know. Guys, if you don't know, you're in the military. A lot of them renamed them now, but we used to just call them field manuals, FM. And if you were if you were 11 Bravo, then you know what the FM 6-5 is, because yeah, we played off the same playbook in the Marines. Yeah, that's I've seen the hamheads. We actually have a ham operators club here on the Eastern Shore of Virginia. It's got about 30 people in it, and but they're all octogenarians, and so that's like that club won't last, another 10 years, unfortunately, because there's just there's no buy-in on it,
Yeah. Here's the thing about ham radio is if you go to a ham radio club, and I highly encourage everybody to do this.
Mhm.
And I'm dead serious. I think it's kind of funny that we all have our fan club. You get any kind of notoriety, you can have your fan club, and I mean that in a derogatory way. And I've had people that come after me. Oh, he calls people sad hams, and they totally don't realize.
I call them hamheads.
I've been an amateur extra for a decade. I've been in.
Did you say you're a ham tractor?
Yeah, like but here's the deal, and I'm pretty well accomplished ham. Back when I was active in it, I had a pretty big following, a logbook of the world, and when 13 colonies, that contest goes, I routinely hit all 13 colonies. Did the state contests, and it was, but I don't have time for that anymore. I just don't have time for that anymore. But here's the deal. I highly encourage everybody to visit their local ham club, right? And you know what? Here's the deal, man. If you go in there, and first of all, don't go in there wearing all of your beliefs on your sleeve. And I don't mean that like, it's respect is a two-way street. You just know that you're kind of, think of it like when you're walking into a new unit, you're the FNG, and you kind of need to step back and see who's who, and figure out what's who, and that chances are that first guy is going to come up and talk to you probably after the meeting, because they have their programs. And and a program is just a presentation. Normally somebody in the club is doing a quick little PowerPoint blurb on something, and whatever, and they talk about it. All right, and maybe that ain't your cup of tea. Cool. Sit back. I'm gonna share a little anecdotal story about that. A friend of mine in the ham radio world, wait until the end of that ham club meeting and see who comes up and talks to you. And here's the deal, man. If nobody comes up and talks to you, nobody comes up, shakes your hand, asks your name, anything like that, guess what, man? That club ain't for you. It ain't for you. And it's no hard feelings, man. Don't have hard feelings about it. Those cats just ain't for you. All right. So here's what you do. You go found a new club. That's all you got to do. It's so simple. If you look up on the American Radio Relay League, or ARRL, out of Connecticut, great organization. In the ham radio community, they could be, depending on who you talk to, they could be a little hit or miss, because they're kind of the NRA but for radio. Okay. I think that's a very good analogy for them. I'm a fan of the organization. I'm a life member. It's again, it is what you make of it. Their publications are excellent, but for the hobby and practical application too. But you can get the bylaws for a club. All you need is 3 other people who are licensed. That's all you need. You need a president, you need a vice president, you need a treasurer.
Huh.
That's it. And you
That's
come up with a
interesting.
bylaws, and then you apply for a club call sign, and now you got yourself a ham radio club. And
Interesting.
you go on and you do whatever you want. I mean, it's that simple. And talking about like most people's introduction to amateur radio once they get licensed is to hop on the local repeater and see what's there. And it kind of is a running joke because that is where you find the old fuds. Just like when you go to your local range and that old
Mm-hmm.
fud is out there with his orange range master cap, and just like the meme, you got a tax stamp for that, sonny boy. Like
Yeah.
you find those guys on the repeater too. And
gotcha.
look, if
So
you don't want to talk to them, don't talk to them. They ain't
yeah, I
gonna be there
gotcha.
all the time. Do your own
Yeah.
thing, man.
Yeah. So there was actually a question that was in the chat about this. It was
Yeah.
by the Prepared Irishman. He said, "How do you convince other preppers in your local community to get their licenses?"
The best answer that I give for that is those who want to do it are going to do it. Those who don't want to do it ain't going to do it. And don't force them. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
It's a hobby, man. Be laid back about it. Look, the guys who are into it, make it fun. Make it fun. Back before I was teaching classes and all the things that I do now. Again, which was the talking, kind of going back to the book. The book was an unexpected success. I did not anticipate it was going to do what it became. That was just a blessing from this community that was really incredible. But I didn't, I didn't plan on any of that. It wasn't. I didn't name it the Guerrilla's Guide to the Battlefield Radio because it's a catchy title. It's because that's literally what it is. It's a handbook for stay behinds and asymmetric warfare.
Mm-hmm.
But talking like where I was going with that is that back before all of that, back before I was literally teaching classes, every other weekend throughout the year and doing all the stuff. I spent a lot of time, my free time doing ham radio stuff as the hobby end of it, which sadly I don't have a lot of time for anymore. And we ran it like tailgate parties, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it was. It became tailgate parties. It was, hey, like this contest is going to happen, and me and 5 or 6 other beer drinkers that also have radios got together, and man, we're there to have a good time. And they're also into preparedness stuff, but you just laid back about it. I did see. Now I'll share a kind of an unfortunate anecdote of a group that I worked with who started out the gate really strong, and they had kind of an overbearing guy who was the quote unquote leader of them, and they had a lot of guys in their crew. I mean, it was like 16 or 17 of them, and they started out with a lot of guys in their crew who were good old boys, good guys. That they're out there deer hunting. They're gonna be, they were making stew. One of the class we did a private class for them in the fall, and they're over there making stew. Had that thing, in cast iron pot. We just had we had so much fun. But the guy that was the leader of this group was really kind of walking the fine line between I'm keeping everybody on task, and we're utilizing our training time properly, which absolutely needed to happen with these guys because it was kind of like herding cats. They were there to have fun, but he got a little overbearing, and he crossed the line with a couple guys and started raising his voice at him, which I thought was just a little like, hey man, you ain't gotta act like that.
Mhm.
Everybody's here, they're
Yeah.
voluntary. If
Without a
it's not-
uniform, it's pretty useless.
yeah, they're not gonna stick around, man. And he got real worked up with one of them, and he's like, "You're on my land right now." So it was just it wasn't productive, and those guys
Mhm.
started checking out, you know. And so I always took that away as always be when you're working with volunteers, which is what you know your prepper community and everything is at its heart. You really have to reinforce the buy-in that they have
Mhm.
there. You got to make it fun and
Yeah.
appeal to everybody's strengths while not highlighting their maybe areas they're weak on. Don't do that.
Gotcha.
And with radio, man, all you got to do is make it fun. If you make it fun, and I tell you, fun thing about one of the things that we were doing back when I was doing a lot of ham stuff was we had our little get together, and we had big ass HF antenna up, and I got a jacked up truck out there and everything. we look like we're having a good time. And one of the neighbors rode by at my buddy's place where we were doing this. And he goes, "What are y'all out there doing?" And I mean, this is like the last guy you'd ever imagine would be into radio.
Yeah.
Dude's getting his orange hat on the dashboard. We ain't had a Hun license since the last time the game warden took it from him. He's whatever, but he's just a good old boy. He rides goes, "What y'all out there doing?" And I said, "Oh man, we're playing radio. You want to come? We're talking all over the world." He goes, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna come up here." Man, when it goes down, I mean, this was back during the Obama years.
Yeah.
He goes, "Man, when it all goes down, I'm coming over here." And I
Mhm.
was just like, "That's right, man." Like and this guy, he's not a ham, and I don't know if he ever even became one or whatever, but it didn't
Yeah.
matter. That's just another barrel that you got in the fight,
Yeah.
And there you go,
Yeah.
jumping on.
Yeah, that's a great story. Okay, guys, we've reached the middle of the live stream, and you guys know what that means. If you love your country, put a number 1 in the chat. Not your government, your country, America. And I'm going to drink some coffee. I'm going to talk some smack. I'm going to pay some bills, and this time it might actually work. Time to get serious, guys. Come here. What if the medical kit you carry could be trusted to save a life every single time? I'm here to tell you about Refuge Medical, an American company that's redefining what it means to be prepared. Now, Refuge Medical is proudly 100% American, based in Oklahoma. Every single component in their first aid kit and trauma gear, from the tourniquet to the gauze to the trauma shears, is sourced right here in America. No shortcuts, no compromises. When you choose Refuge Medical, you're not just investing in your safety or your loved ones. You're supporting American families and rebuilding American manufacturing, which is kind of important right now. Now, why are Refuge medical kits the best on the planet? Well, it's simple. Because they're field tested and trusted by professionals and built to exceed military standards. Their BearVac 3.0, for example, has saved over 145 lives and counting. These aren't just supplies, guys. They're precision tools designed for real emergencies, crafted with premium American-made materials to ensure you are ready when seconds matter the most. And here's what sets Refuge Medical apart. They guarantee their product for life. That's right, forever. If any part of your kit fails, they replace it. No questions asked. But it gets even better. If you use Refuge medical gear to save a life, they'll replace those used items for free. That's how much they believe in their mission to empower you to become a lifesaver. So, why settle for less when you can trust the best? Choosing Refuge Medical, American made, unmatched quality, and guaranteed for life. Just smart. Refuge Medical isn't just about gear, it's about giving you the confidence to act when it matters the most. Back to the show. Okay. The buttons worked. Yay. Okay. Sorry I didn't have time. So if you guys didn't know this, I like to hang out with people before I bring them on. and we would talk for like 15, 20 minutes and look down at the clock. It was like, oh no, we got to go. But I sorry to let you know that was going to happen. Anywho, so with that said, there was a couple other things. There's a couple other major themes on the communication side. So what are your thoughts? Because there's been, my observation is that there's been a push to GMRS as a way of being more legal. You know what I'm saying? The easy way. You know what I'm saying? The easy license. And so what are your thoughts on GMRS? Because I'm seeing a lot of people in the preparedness community move towards that.
It's too limited. They move towards it because they don't know what they're doing. I mean, that's just it. GMRS is not a radio. It's not a. It's really not a anything. It's 23 channels. It's a frequency allocation between 462 and 467 megahertz. That's all. Specifically, I mean, I don't know. It's just like talking about, you know, how many AR-15 videos can you watch? I mean, GMRS is the same thing. It's not.
Okay. Doesn't like GMRS.
I mean, it's not really a like or dislike. It's just why. I mean, number one, all right, so it shares the frequency allocation with FRS, which is a family radio service. Okay, so why? Number one, you're using published data. You're using a relatively short range radio capability.
Okay.
UHF is you know, you're probably going to get about a mile or two out of that. In eastern woodlands, and just I don't understand why people are like limiting themselves to one thing. Like that falls squarely in the sustainment category. What you need to look into is MURS, multi-use radio service. Like if you're looking for a sustainment side, commo, simple, where there's not going to be a lot of traffic and people probably aren't even going to know what it is. MURS. That's 151.82. It's 5 channels, license free. Your Baofengs can all transmit on it. Yeah, I know there's going to be that one guy. It's like, but they're not type certified. Yeah. Look, I'm an amateur extra. I'm a volunteer examiner. I'm close friends with the FCC's last official observer. I don't think anybody's gonna come. The magic man ain't gonna come out of the woodwork and come scoop you up for talking on MURS.
Yeah. I think with the I love the MURS idea. I want to come back to that. But I think that a lot of people go the GMRS route because they don't want to be tested. They don't want to like sit down and take this test. You know what I'm saying? I personally have an aversion to ham radio licenses because, you know, when you do enough SATCOM shots, you don't think that you need to be able to like pay somebody to push the button. You know what I'm saying? But I understand what you're saying because they are limiting their capabilities. And then on the MURS side, so what are the advantages of the MURS over GMRS then? Just that there'd be less people on it?
That you're working in VHF, so very high frequency. It has to do with signal loss and vegetation. The higher in frequency you go, the literally the liquid that is in vegetation acts like a kaleidoscope, and it refracts your signal. You're going to end up losing a lot of your signal. It gets eaten up by UHF. Now, from a ComSec perspective, and that might not necessarily be a bad thing, but it all depends. It's kind of and I go into that real deep in the book. But with VHF, you've got just substantially higher degree of capability there. more
Yeah.
range in terms of physical distance. Um,
Yeah.
it's just better.
Yeah. I've honestly, I just wanted to hear what you'd have to say about it, because I'm a huge advocate of MURS radios. I have a couple myself, and I've actually done tests out to 1.5 miles through dense trees, and the MURS actually does get out there. You know what I'm saying? And then then there's all sorts of advantages. It's like, oh, FRS sucks. FRS is great if you're indoors. A lot of people don't know that. Because it loves to bounce off those walls.
Well,
Um,
do this. I'll tell you, tips and tricks on FRS/GMRS. The difference between FRS and GMRS is the same frequency allocation. FRS is limited to 2 watts, and legally, quote unquote, although again, I've never heard of anyone getting popped for running more than the dreaded 2 watts. But GMRS allows you up to 50, and you can put a repeater in there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the difference between the two.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But again, like the same people who run around screeching about GMRS, who in the same breath say, "Well, I don't want any government paperwork on me." Well, you have government paperwork on you.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to go through the same website to get your GMRS license. You just give them less money.
Yeah, actually, no. Amateur radio licenses are free. You pay the testing fee, which is 15.
I see.
And these days, most so there you go. Amateur radio is actually less expensive. And 15. I mean, come on, $15. Like,
yeah. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think it was that cheap. I thought is that something that's changed in the last few years? No.
Okay. It's always been that way. $15 is usually the testing fee. For the ARRL kind of, they don't mandate it, but that's like to cover the cost of your exam booklet, and that's okay. But that's that. And look, I totally get it. I'm not sitting there trying to proselytize people to be hams or whatever. I'm just telling you, like, if that's the route you want to go and you want to take it to the next level, I encourage you to do that. And there's ways to be really cool about it. Yeah. And then there's like, what I'm telling people is don't get turned off by the fuzz. Hey, Sonny boy, I'll be talking about phlebitis. Like, and those guys, to be fair, those guys are a joke inside the ham community as well.
Yeah.
Look up, there's a website that used to be around. I don't know if it's still around. It was called hamsexy.org.
What?
Oh, it's hilarious.
Keep talking.
Yes. Keep talking. Yes. And it's like all the worst ham radio memes. It was like the Babylon Bee, but specifically for ham radio memes.
Site cannot be reached.
Oh, it's gone. Oh,
let me see. www. It's not working. Let me Google it.
The Wayback Machine will have it. The Wayback Machine will have it. It was gold, man. It was friggin' gold.
That's hilarious.
Okay. But nah, it's and here's the deal. Like people divide themselves into these little camps of like, well, I'm only going to be a this. And like one of the things I noticed when I got into amateur radio, because I started out when I was a kid, I started out with CB. We're talking the 90s, and CB was kind of nearing the end of its heyday, but like, Daisy Duke was still, reruns on TV, and BJ and the Bear, and like all of that, Smoking the Bandit, and is it? Yeah, there it is. There it is. But it's changed. It's a HTML site now. It used to be better than that.
The antennas on this car.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There you go. It's just like all this rando funny stuff, and there's like little stories that go along with it. That's just like, wow, and just jokes upon jokes upon jokes.
That is amazing, man. I'm gonna be using that so much.
Like back in the day, dude, I was deep into CB as a kid. I loved it.
Yeah.
And CB Channel 6, which they call the Super Bowl, which is still real active. That's where the CB Pirates would get on, and like you'd hear dudes like I'm on the East Coast, you'd
Yeah.
hear guys from California that are just blasting out,
Yeah.
crazy amounts of power, and
Mhm.
and it was just cool, man. And it's still cool. And when I became a ham, there were guys like there was stuff I learned as a ham that made me better at CB.
Mhm.
I was doing the license free like FRS, and obviously GMRS kind of goes along with it, and
Yeah.
MURS for a while, uh, just playing with it because I had those guys that lived around me that I'm deer hunting with and doing whatever. They ain't getting no ham radio license. Like, you ain't having it for them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Some will be on license free stuff. And then when I became a ham, the guys, there were some of those old curmudgeons who were like, "Wow, I don't play around on that old children's band," talking about CB, or they would say
Mhm.
derogatory stuff. And it's just like, well, in order for me to be that's what I was saying about considering yourself an expert, quote unquote, is you stop learning. Those cats stop learning, man. They're
Yeah.
dumb. Like,
Yeah.
don't. All right, so it's kind of like martial arts. If you become a black belt in uh, American karate, for
Mhm.
example, okay, cool. Well, striking very well, but do you know wrestling? So
Mhm.
now we're going to take that to it, and we saw that transition in MMA.
Yeah.
And so with radio, like you probably think, what the hell does that got to do with radio? It's because we learn over time that rather than stick to one discipline, maybe embrace all of them and see
Mhm.
how much you can master. It's the same, it's the
Yeah.
same with radios. And
Yeah,
you
that
just
makes
pick
sense.
which tool you want.
That makes it. Man, listen, I, I got a, I got, a, I've got a CB base station at my property in North Carolina. You know,
That
I hate to say it, but I need to set it up. I
yeah.
stumbled across it at an old Cobra. I stumbled across it at a yard sale for $5. I was like, this is mine.
Ah,
I found a power cable, hooked it up. It start making noise. I was like, I need an antenna, so I just need to get it set up properly. So I'm all about all the different types of radios, I mean, because, if this is a SHTF or the end of the Titawaki or whatever the hell the preppers want to call it that day,
yeah.
then, hey, you can turn them all on. You know what I'm saying? As long as you got the power, you can turn them all on and just listen, limiting yourself is just a little bit, it's a little bit foolish.
I tell you, the nice thing, and I saw in the comments, ENSK down there, you got 2 CB base stations. One of the really cool things about a CB radio base station,
Hmm.
and you mentioned Cobra, the Cobra Model 29 LTD, specifically, the old chrome face one.
Yeah. With a little meter on it.
Yeah, if you know anything about modifying the power output of electronics, and it ain't exactly rocket science to do
Mm-hmm.
this, you can boost. They come from the factory limited at 4 watts, so that's kind of like a restrictor plate on the motor.
Mm-hmm.
You catching my drift
Yeah,
here?
yeah. I'm tracking with you, man.
But now, you can. Now, I'm not telling you to do that, but if you did,
Yeah.
that would
If you
be
just so happen to.
yeah. and
Yeah.
and what's really cool is that pretty much all of the CB radio base stations that I'm aware of, it's actually ridiculously easy to modify them because everything is big inside of
Mm-hmm.
it. You have a cabinet and I mean a CB radio, an AM radio that's working in 27 megahertz.
Yeah.
It's not particularly difficult to modify that if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and schematics are out there. If you just Google that sucker, you're gonna come up with some usually some interesting things to do with it. I got a old one of the older radios that I have. I kind of have a collection of quote unquote antiques, but it's an old Montgomery Ward,
Mm-hmm.
the old department store Montgomery
Yeah,
Ward.
yeah. I remember.
Doesn't even exist anymore. It was
I'm
like
old enough to have shopped there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But like GC Murphy's, but they in Sears, they used to have their own
Yep.
brands of electronics and sporting goods equipment.
Sears used to make everything from shotguns to linen.
Yeah, yeah. And appliances with them. But they had a CB radio. Montgomery Ward had a CB radio, and I have one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't know who actually manufactured this because it's that old. It's not a Cobra, it's not a President. But I took this thing apart because, again, I got it for nothing. It was free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, plug the sucker in. Hey, it gets power. Ran a continuity check on the finals. They're pushing juice. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to take this thing apart, kind of dust off the cobwebs inside of here. And it's such a simple radio. Now it may or may not push 50 watts.
Yeah.
I
mean, but anything more than 4 is more than 4, right?
Exactly. I could totally cut it down, but if I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about these? So I've actually been contacted about it, and I'm kind of, be honest with you, I'm kind of blowing it off. But so what do you think about these new portable GMRS repeaters?
I mean, they're fine. One of the things that you need to worry about when putting a repeater in is that you're not interfering with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big deal. One of the things that people don't know when they first get into putting those kinds of things out is emergency service UHF frequency allocations is dangerously close to FRS and GMRS. And if you put in a repeater that we'll say might be questionable, you might be interfering with stuff. So I'm just saying it's something, a low power repeater, 5 watts or whatever, like a, Baofeng duplexer and everything. That's probably not a problem. Probably not going to be a problem. I highly doubt anybody would, unless you're just really, really stupid about it. I don't think you'd have a problem. But if you're talking about putting in a GMRS repeater, they could run up to 50 watts, and that's one of those things. What you need to do, what I encourage everybody who's interested in that to do, is to look up where the repeaters are located in your area. And you can look, amateur radio, you can do that with Repeater Book. Amateur radio repeaters, you can look those up. GMRS, you're going to be able to look those up as well. I strongly encourage you to do that because the people who are putting the repeaters in are normally part of a larger club, and there's a actual overarching entity that approves repeater locations called SARA, or the South. For us, it's SARA, Southeastern Repeater Association, and they're going to make sure that there's no harmful interference going on. So and look, I'm not one of these people that's going to jump up now and be like, "You will fire them." Don't. Look, here's the deal. Don't interfere with people who are communicating as a profession. All right. Don't do that. That's a problem. You're becoming a problem. You're not part of the solution.
Yeah.
So be aware. And when in doubt, check radioreference.com. You can this is a kind of a free signals intelligence resource. Scoop up radioreference.com. Go on there. Don't pay them for anything because all they're doing is scraping public data. But you can check out your locality and who's transmitting where. So you're going to know, and it'll tell you where repeaters are located as well for emergency services. But it's going to tell you what frequencies they're operating on so that you can steer clear of them. You're not interfering and stuff. It's not causing you, problems. And when in doubt, radioreference.com, put in your zip code. and you'll be able to find all that information there.
Gotcha. So the bottom line is just do the research before you turn anything on.
Yeah,
That's what it really comes down to. Yeah. No, I was wondering that because, you know, like I said, I got approached by a company for a portable repeater, for the portable 25-watt repeater, but it was all GMRS. It was all preloaded and everything. But then they're like, oh, by the way, if you use our proprietary software, you can program whatever you want into it. And I'm like, really? That could be a problem. That could be a small problem. So I was like, yeah, maybe I'll talk to you later. And that was about it. That was about it. Looks like Ian's got a question here. Is there a specific Bofang radio that the book was written around?
No, not really. I mean, they're all basically the same. The dot matrix screen on them, you know, the LCD screen, they're all of those are essentially the same. The programming characteristics on the front panel are all the same. You don't, they're not really that different. So a couple of the newer ones like the UV5RM it's got an LCD screen, or the color screen rather. You know, they're a little, they have like a couple extra menu options that are basically inconsequential. So I really wouldn't, you know, but again, it's not written around a specific model of Baofeng. That's not, because I mean, you literally couldn't. There are so many doggone versions of that radio running around.
I know, right?
Yeah, they're bootlegs.
I know, man. I made a radio video the other day. I'm like, I'm so tired of this. I'm upgrading my Bofangs to the Bofang XXXX. And I told him I was holding a UV5R and I was actually holding a UV5G. I mean, they all look so exactly the same. It's like, whatever, dude. Push talk. The Prepared Irishman wants to know if you're on Instagram.
Yeah. Excuse me. Look up Brush Beater Team. We got a small Instagram footprint. They're really hitting a whole lot over there on it. Mainly, man, I just don't have time to sit on like all the social media platforms. I primarily interact with people on X, and I'll say, you know, real quick about that. The reason that I'm primarily on X is what I found from the community over there is that a lot of those guys really are thirsty for knowledge. Some of the other platforms are more clickbaity, I think. And, you know, and again, I try really hard in earnest not to say, not to rake anybody over the coals specifically or anything like that, man, because I'm not that guy. But I think a lot of the content that I've observed on other platforms is very clickbait, very like the guys actually don't know squat about what they're talking about. They're just trying to shill something, and it's
that happens a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, if I can sit and I can directly answer questions with you and interact, you know, on X in comments and stuff, I feel like that's very productive for the larger community that's observing it, and at least it seems to be. And I really like that. You know, and when in doubt, man, you know, you can always email me ncscout@brushbeater.org. You know, I'm out there, shoot me some emails, man. You know, I spend probably about 2 hours a day just sitting there banging out emails, corresponding with people.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
know.
cool. And going a little bit backwards, I think AppTac USA had a question. It says, does this include the Viper system? If my memory serves me, he's talking about a CB.
No.
Okay,
no.
talk to me, Goose.
Viper is North Carolina is the only state that runs Viper. Viper is a proprietary wideband UHF system developed by Motorola.
Okay.
North Carolina State Highway Patrol is the first agency to run it. The North Carolina Department of Public Safety has mandated it across all agencies now to kind of try to get everybody on the same sheet of music. It's you're going to find Viper traffic in the 700 megahertz range. So you ain't got to worry about interfering with that. Hell, Dirty Secret, they're more worried about it interfering with itself than anybody really interfering with it.
Okay.
It's not a, you know, I had a systems engineer for Viper in class. Oh, it was probably about 2 years ago now, and we were having a conversation about all the problems with Viper, specifically in the mountains, because it again, going back to our conversation about UHF, in Western North Carolina, Viper has to have towers on top of towers on top of towers to be able to get any kind of coverage on the highways. In the like Hurricane Helene coming up on 1 year ago with Hurricane Helene, here in just about a month, they had a hell of a time just trying to get communications stabilized for the state troopers. I mean, they were so like out west, they were so task saturated that it just didn't work. I see a comment down there about mesh-tastic systems. Don't. Yeah, all the things I'm talking about with Viper, those are all the problems you're gonna have with mesh-tastic. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. And to me, that's a raw shock test of if somebody actually knows what they're talking about or not. If they bring that up in a positive or a negative way, and I mean that by I have friends that are defense contractors. I have friends that work for the communications companies that provide defense equipment, and things like GoTenna, which was kind of favored for a little while, picked up by an Air Force contract. They're already ditching that crap because it doesn't work. Not only does it not work, they were fielding it in Ukraine, and guess what happened? Everybody that was using that duck, because it's a beacon, everybody was using that crap got killed. So that's not really it like, and that's again, I talk about in the Guerrilla's Guide to Signals Intelligence, all the pitfalls with it from a security standpoint, as well as interoperability standpoint. It's all in there. So it's again, I could talk all night about that. But it's look, there's not anything that learning how to operate, even just MURS, multi-use radio service, 151 megahertz through 154 megahertz. There's nothing that it does that Mesh-tastic does that won't do better with equipment you probably already have. So. I'm kind of at a loss. I don't know why those widgets pick up. Well, I do know why those widgets pick up steam. And I see Ian in the comments asking, would it be useful for other radios like Icon, Kenwood, Yaesu, Motorola? Yeah, absolutely. My book is, like I said, really only the second chapter and part of the 7th chapter on digital communications. So taking an analog Baofeng radio and making it a digital device, a data, basically. Those two sections really only apply to the Baofeng. The rest of the book is the operating manual on VHF and UHF communications.
Yeah.
So it applies to any radio. That's why I get cracked up when, like, the ham buds, or they think that they're they're gonna own me. You didn't read the book, and it shows, and they're like, well, I did, but no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take the last question, then we're gonna call this. So I'm curious because I'm kind of old school, and I actually know how to make a traditional military dipole antenna. And so I'm curious how effective they would be with a UV5R, because I've seen the adapters. Go ahead.
It's in the book.
It's in the book.
Highly effective. It is in the book. So I've got a whole antenna chapter on improvised wire antennas with some diagrams that you'll probably recognize.
Yes, they used to
But,
hand them out to us.
oh yeah, oh yeah. But running a dipole is going to give you, because I'm trying to think of how to do this and how to explain this in layman's terms without a whiteboard behind me. You have 2.15 dB of gain, which that sounds like gibberish. I understand. What that means is for every 3 decibels of gain that you have, you double your effective radiated output, meaning that you're not actually doubling your power output.
Mm-hmm.
You're making your signal that much stronger to be the equivalent of it
Yeah.
of double that. So 2.15 dB of gain when you build a dipole for your any radio, and you string it up, and run it up into a tree with some coax cable. It hey, it's gonna do really well for you. And when I explain range in terms of physical distance, there are 2 things that equate range, right? Because everybody asks, what's the range on the radio? Antenna height, because
Mm-hmm.
when we're talking line of sight, there's a reason that line of sight antennas are on top of tall things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they got to have that longer line of sight. So taller antenna for line of sight and more efficient antenna. And there's a calculation to it. It's very simple math. And here's the deal. We've got RTO course coming up this weekend, and starting on Friday. I bought the antenna making supplies. I do this for every class. I bought the antenna making supplies in Tractor Supply, and they're sitting in the classroom. So
nice.
other than the Cobra heads, which I sell on brushbeater.store. The Cobra heads and coax cable. Obviously, I don't sell that in Tractor Supply. I sell those, but building a dipole is easy.
Oh yeah, it's extremely easy. I was just curious if it was applicable, if it was going to be a waste of time with the UV5R, because we used to build them all the time, man.
So I have them go a step further in class. Every student builds a jungle antenna, also known as a ground plane or OE254. Like you call it whatever you want. They're all variations of ground plane antenna, but they all build that because it is a working model of antenna theory. And what I always do in class on day 1, after they've built their antenna, we roll through antenna theory, is I always say, hey, who's got the least amount of confidence in their antenna? And I take that person and we put their antenna up as the test when we're testing their antennas. And we get that on up probably about 25, 30 feet or so. I've got a big elm tree that outside the classroom that we get it up in. And so the one of the large repeaters in the Piedmont in North Carolina is roughly 47 miles away, and I have not yet had a class that did not hit it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. You're bringing memories back, man. You said OE. I was like, huh?
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, you don't know. You're never going to figure it out. Don't worry about it. It's a military thing. All right, man. Well, listen, I want to thank you for hanging out with us. We're definitely going to have you on because you're obviously a wealth of knowledge. Hopefully, when is this class? Where can they find your classes at? Because I'm pretty sure I put all the links, but I want to make sure that they're in the video description.
Oh yeah. Brushbeater.store is the online web store, so you can check out brushbeater.store, and it's we've got a whole lot of stuff over there, thermal, night vision, communication stuff, medical, like literally all the things.
Okay, I've got brushbeater.org.
That's the blog.
Okay,
that's
so brushbeater.store. So I'll change that. Okay.
Yeah. and you know, if you're in North Carolina, if you're in Virginia, you're in Tennessee, South Carolina, hell, even Georgia, you know, I'll bring you in. I'm gonna make fun of you, but I'll bring you in. But
Okay.
but anyway, no, I have a showroom in the warehouse, you know, here, Yanceyville, North Carolina. Come check it out. I have a full-time staff that is in there Wednesday through Saturday, and I'm normally in the office Monday and Tuesdays as well. But that's my day, kind of doing admin tasks and stuff.
Gotcha.
But we've got a dark room for testing night vision. It's a place to hang out, and we got a lot of cool products that you can get hands on with in there.
Yeah, I
And
might take you up on that shit, man. I might take you up on that.
come on,
You know, I have a property in North Carolina, right?
you told me.
I'm in Virginia now, so it is what it is. All right. Well, once again, thanks for hanging out, and we will definitely be talking. For everybody else who was hanging out, I appreciate your time. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up on the way out the door, and as usual, stay safe. Have a great day, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye-bye. I'm going to push some buttons now here. I don't even know which ones I'm going to push. They're here, like a professional goodbye type button, and I can't find it. I'm just going to kill it. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.